Okay, so tonight we're going deep, really deep into a story, a chilling one, really. Think ancient rituals, dark magic, and a cemetery that sounds, well, frankly, terrifying.
Sounds right up our alley then.
Yeah, so we're dissecting episode 1 of the Worshippers of Hell podcast. It's a story about a man named Hashim.
And this episode, right off the bat, it really sets the stage. You got to picture a graveyard, really unsettling vibes, and you've got these skull symbols etched into the tombstones instead of like the usual religious markings.
Eerie. Yeah, it's in this really creepy place that we find Hashem's final resting place. And the location, it's as unsettling as the man himself.
Absolutely.
It's like straight out of some gothic horror novel. And to really grasp who Hashim is, we have to look back into his family history, his lineage. He's a descendant of fire worshippers, which plays a big, really big role in this story.
Right. With fire worship, especially among certain sects, and these originated from Central Asia and ended up settling in regions that are now part of Pakistan, it wasn't just about, the flames themselves. It was about power, purification, even a connection to something divine,
I see.
And while a lot of these fire worshippers, they led pretty ordinary lives, but certain families, like Hashim's, passed down this intricate knowledge of the occult. They went deep into things like black magic and necromancy.
So Hashim, he inherits this legacy, this family tradition, but he doesn't just, keep things as they are. He's got this hunger for wealth, like an insatiable hunger.
Definitely.
And we're not talking about just a comfy lifestyle here. He wanted like a level of riches, a level of wealth that most people, they can't even imagine it.
Right, it consumed him. So this ambition, it's fueled by his family's occult knowledge, and it leads Hashim down a path to becoming a sorcerer in the 1970s in Lahore.
So he's what, running a shop or something?
Well, more like operating out of a small rented house. And he starts attracting a clientele, mostly women, all looking for solutions to their problems. But, and here's the thing, the podcast suggests that it wasn't just his magical abilities or supposed abilities that drew people in.
Yeah, it was almost like their desperation and, maybe their lack of faith in other things that made them, well, susceptible to his influence, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it really makes you wonder how much of his magic was real and how much was just, psychological manipulation.
Right. It really raises those questions about the nature of belief, about the power of suggestion, especially when people are desperate for answers. I mean, did he really have these supernatural abilities, or was he just a master at playing on people's vulnerabilities?
It's a good question, yeah. But even with all the wealth he was amassing, Hashem's greed, it just keeps growing. It's not even about the money anymore. What he really craves is ultimate power. In his family's ancient book of magic, it says that the key to this power is summoning a powerful spirit, a spirit called Afriti.
And Afriti, she's not just any spirit. The legends say she's the queen of all buried treasures. Think about it. She knows where every single hidden treasure in the world is.
Wow.
The power that comes with that knowledge, it would be intoxicating. But summoning an entity like Afriti, that's incredibly dangerous. You're gambling, and the consequences could be catastrophic.
So how do you even go about summoning something like that? What's the ritual?
Well, according to the book, you need a skull, a single candle, and you have to sit within a grave. Oh, and any mistake, even the slightest one, during a ritual could result in, well, eternal torment.
Eternal torment. That's pretty high stakes.
Absolutely. It's like playing Russian roulette with your soul. But Hashim, he's completely blinded by his ambition. It's like he just ignores these warnings.
So he's driven by this reckless desire, this desire for ultimate power. And he goes out, he sets out to find the perfect grave, the perfect place for the ritual. And he ends up, of course, in that creepy cemetery we were talking about.
Yeah.
Spends hours searching for the right spot. And he finds it. He finds this partially collapsed tomb. And the opening, it's just big enough for him to squeeze through. He marks it with a broken branch, and he plans to come back at midnight to do the summoning.
And so it begins. This discovery, this tomb, it feels like a point of no return for Hashim, like he's physically committing to this dangerous path. But there's one detail, it's a small detail, but it really adds to the unsettling nature of the story. You know what I mean?
I mean that knocking sound. The knocking coming from Hashem's own freshly dug grave.
Yeah.
Yeah, that gave me chills. Like, what is that all about?
It's definitely ominous, right? Is it just some natural thing happening, or is it something more, well, sinister? Could it be like a manifestation of Hashem's own anxieties about the ritual? Or maybe even a sign that the cemetery itself is pushing back against his dark ambitions?
It's like the graveyard is saying, turn back, man. Turn back now before it's too late. Definitely sets the stage for a truly creepy, truly suspenseful story.
It's wild how the podcast really emphasizes just how powerful this Afridi is. It's not some small-time spirit we're talking about here.
Not at all.
Hashem's aiming for the top.
Yeah.
He wants to control a being that's said to know where every hidden treasure in the world is.
Can you imagine?
I mean, the power that would come with that knowledge,
Yeah.
intoxicating, but also pretty terrifying.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Afridi's power, it's ancient and it's immense. I mean, there's a reason why there are all these warnings surrounding the rituals,
Right. Like, it's too good to be true, so it probably is.
Exactly.
And Hashem's the ambition. It's like he's totally blind to the risks.
He's completely fixated on the reward.
Yeah.
And he's totally ignoring the warnings in that ancient book, the one that says, any mistake during the ritual equals eternal torment.
Eternal torment.
It's like, what's that say?
Like playing with fire.
Yeah, like playing Russian roulette, but with your soul.
Wow.
Classic case of hubris.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It makes you wonder if his downfall is just a matter of when, not if.
Yeah, it's like we're watching a tragedy in slow motion.
Right.
He's so consumed by this desire for wealth and power
Totally.
that he's become a puppet of his own ambition.
And the podcast does such a good job of building that tension,
Yeah.
I mean, those descriptions of the cemetery,
Oh my gosh, so creepy.
the gnarled trees, the skull-marked gravestones,
Oh.
and that feeling, that sense of dread,
It's palpable.
it really raises the stakes.
For sure. And
It's both sacred and unsettling.
and that knocking sound
Right.
coming from Hashem's own grave.
Healing.
That's bone chilling.
It's like the cemetery itself is rejecting him.
Yeah.
Like a warning,
Get out while you still can.
Right, exactly.
It's up to us to interpret, I guess.
Woof.
Is it natural or is it supernatural?
Could be a warning from beyond the grave.
Ooh.
Or maybe it's just Hashem's anxieties,
Projecting out into the world.
Yeah, amplifying the creepiness.
Whatever it is, it adds like another layer of creepiness to everything.
Absolutely.
It's like a constant reminder that Hashem is messing with things he doesn't understand.
Powerful forces.
Yeah, and the consequences could be way worse than he realizes.
And remember how the podcast keeps talking about how Hashem's clients lack faith?
Right.
Makes you wonder if that will play a role in his own fate?
That's interesting, yeah.
What if Hashem, despite all his confidence in his occult knowledge,
Uh-huh.
what if he actually lacks faith himself?
Whoa.
Could it be that vulnerability, hidden under all that ambition, that's what brings him down in the end?
That adds a whole new layer to the story.
Right.
It's not just some greedy sorcerer wanting ultimate power. It's about human flaws,
Yeah.
internal struggles.
Exactly. It makes the whole thing even more suspenseful.
Oh, for sure.
Will he succeed or will
Yeah.
he be doomed?
We're on the edge of our
The
seats.
stage is set.
The atmosphere is thick with dread.
A masterclass in storytelling.
I'm hooked. So we've talked about, Hashem and his ambitions, that whole perilous ritual, the cemetery, all that. There's this one symbol that just keeps appearing. And it's really intriguing. I mean, the skull. It's like everywhere. The gravestones, that archway, even the ritual itself.
It's definitely a striking image. The skull, it means different things in different cultures. But it's often about more than just, death.
Right.
It can be about power, wisdom, or like a connection, a bridge between the physical world and the spirit world.
So thinking about this story then, could it be that the skull represents that power that Hashem's so obsessed with? Or is it more like a warning? Like, be careful, dude.
Yeah, I mean, it's open to interpretation, right? But it's so prominent in the episode, so it's got to mean something, right? Maybe it's about how short life is, foreshadowing, or maybe it's those dark forces he's trying to control. A visual reminder that this is dangerous stuff.
Like the whole cemetery is just radiating this energy, this power, and the skull. It's like the face of it all.
And remember, there are no traditional Muslim markings on the graves. It's like, this is a different belief system, a world where magic and spirits rule.
A hidden world.
Exactly, where the rules are different, where ambition and desperation can lead to, well, some really bad choices.
Yeah, that's what makes this story so gripping. It's like peeking into the unknown, the stuff we're not supposed to see.
Absolutely.
So many questions left unanswered, though. Will he actually manage to bind Afridi? What's he going to have to pay for all this ambition? And that knocking sound coming from his own grave, what's that all about? A warning? Or something even worse?
Those unanswered questions, that's what keeps you hooked. It makes you think, makes you come up with your own theories.
Exactly. It's like planting seeds, letting us, the listeners, figure things out for ourselves.
Hmm.
Think about ambition, about power, about that balance between the physical and the spiritual.
This has been a wild ride, for sure. A deep dive into the dark side of what people want, what they're willing to do to get it. And it's a reminder, a chilling one, that sometimes chasing what you want most can lead you down some pretty scary paths. And the price you pay, well, it might be way higher than you bargained for.
Yeah, some things are better left undisturbed, right? Well, that's all the time we have for our deep dive into the Worshippers of Hell podcast. Until next time, keep it spooky.